How often do you create a goal for yourself, but after a while you lose motivation and then you just abandon the whole idea? Maybe you don't even know how to start working on your goals in general. In this video, I will explain how to set an effective goal, potential reasons why you're not sticking to your goal, and a few extremely useful methods to solve this issue. I also put timestamps in this video, so if you don't feel like watching this whole video, you can skip to the part that interests you the most. We have to start with the initial reason why you are setting certain goals for yourself. Maybe you want to learn something new through reading more books, or maybe it's a physical goal, like becoming stronger in the gym. Sometimes we make a plan for it, and sometimes we have a broad, obscure idea like, I want to get smarter. Regardless if we do this consciously or unconsciously, almost all people start out very motivated, with a bunch of enthusiasm, which is great. We visualize ourselves reaching that big goal, which is an exhilarating feeling. Like, imagine if I knew more about sales and running my own business. I would be so confident and I would earn all the money to live my dream. This exhilarating feeling comes from the increase in blood pressure in our body, which is a great catalyst to get us started on our goal pursuit. Blood pressure rises when our body is getting ready to take on some physical or mental activity that requires some effort. It's our body's way of preparing to start that effort. Every person needs a certain purpose and direction during the time they're here on this planet, and creating goals is essential for that. The famous philosopher Nietzsche has a quote, "The person who has a why can bear almost any how." I think this is so true. If we truly know why we are pursuing certain goals, that will strengthen the foundation of the goal pursuit, which will lead to better consistency when things get difficult. But how do we actually know what our why is? If we don't know what our why is, and why we are pursuing certain goals, and why we are even studying and are motivated to learn certain skills in the first place, we get lost in the sauce of life. This paradox of choice of what to pursue in life can paralyze us, and we get stuck. We and society have put this enormous pressure on ourselves. We all want to make the right choices and use our time as efficiently as possible. We start learning and researching all kinds of different interests. We want to master an instrument, maybe even go to university. But then along the way, we lose motivation, procrastinate, and then abandon the goal in general. But what happens when we do not reach the goal we set for ourselves? You will experience a form of cognitive dissonance. This means that when your behavior does not align with your set intentions, goals, and values, it creates a mental conflict, which eventually can impact a person's self-confidence. For example, you want to go on a run every day, but you decide to skip it because the couch is more comfortable. In this type of situation, we disappoint ourselves. When this happens multiple times, we are even less likely to set new goals for ourselves because we don't want to disappoint ourselves. So, before we start pursuing all kinds of different goals, we first need to ask ourselves, why? How do we discover our why? How do we not lose motivation and discipline along the way and actually reach our goal? First, ask yourself, what is it that you want and why do you want it? You need to find something that makes you want to get out of bed every morning because you cannot wait to start working on this goal. This is of course a difficult topic and easier said than done. To give some guidance, you can try and answer 2 questions about yourself. What is it that I love doing? And what do I need to change about my present? This can apply in your job, bad habits, your relationship, and people around you. Finding a why is a crazy difficult process, and we are almost never 100% certain, but you have to start somewhere. It can be that you have to create a goal because you have to, like finishing a report deadline. In that case, these questions do not apply as much. The goal setting process that I will explain later in the video will apply on both these type of goals. However, if it is something that you actually love, you are more willing to put in that required work and build the discipline to realize this why. Now challenge yourself. Why do you want to accomplish this goal? One simple trick that I would recommend is called layering. You ask yourself why several times and then you write down your answers.
Why? 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 Why?
Why do I want to work out? Because I want to look good. Why do I want to look good? So I will be more socially accepted and maybe get a girlfriend. Why is that important to me? What you will discover is that there's actually a way deeper and more important reason why you actually want to accomplish this mission, instead of just this superficial level idea. You stack all these reasons of why on top of each other, and that will form the backbone for your goal. Now that you know your why and your goal, it would be helpful to set a few core values if you don't already have them. Your core values are an essential piece when it comes to working on your goal. Ask yourself, What values do I need to have and don't need to have to be able to complete my goal? For example, you have a goal that requires you to read more and to research more information. Then the value of curiosity will act as support for that goal. If you have the goal of moving your body and taking your vitamins every day, then the value of health will act as support. Everyone has a hierarchy of values. Maybe you have not actively set them for yourself yet, but you have values or principles that you act upon. Otherwise, you cannot function in your daily life. If you have no idea what all the values are, type in on Google core values examples and look what resonates with you and your why. Your values are kind of like a roadmap. They guide and give you direction. If you're pursuing a goal that is out of alignment with your core values, it almost always leads to failing, disappointment, and then eventually it affects your self-confidence. If you use a few important values to support your why, you will feel extremely motivated and more fulfilled during the process. For example, my most important values are awareness, creativity, curiosity, and health. Again, like Nietzsche said, the person who has a why can bear almost anyhow. Now that you know why you want to reach the goal, and it is backed up by a few important values, we need to formulate the goal in an effective manner. And then keep doing it. There are a lot of different models out there, and a lot of these models have overarching themes. The system that works best for me is to reverse engineer the main goal, the main why, in a few SMART goals. What reverse engineering means is that you have to work backwards and break down the goal into individual steps. I formulate these individual steps in a SMART way. What is a SMART way? If you already know, you can skip this little part because I will explain. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Your few broken steps need to be specific. You can ask yourself a few questions. These questions are related to your why discovery process we just did. So if you already know this, then this should not be a big problem and it will only take like 4 or 5 minutes. These are simple questions, but it makes the goal more concrete. The smaller steps should also be measurable. It is crazy important to check your progress during the time span you're working on your goal. How would you otherwise know if you're actually coming closer to reaching it? Find out your indicator for progress. I cannot decide that for you. Here's a random example. I want to go to the gym and work out 3 times a week in order to get stronger. Every week, I'm aiming to progressively overload by adding 10% weight to my exercise. Here, I measure the amount of days I'm going to work out and the amount of progress I should be making in the exercise. The A and R stand for achievable and realistic. I think these two are very similar. The most important question you should ask yourself here is the goal substantial enough? Through science, we know a few things. Setting goals that are too easy or way too difficult to attain will not give you that increase in blood pressure, thus making the pursuit of that goal less likely. The trick is to set a goal that is substantial enough that it will take a lot of work, but it is in range of your abilities. This will give you that increase in blood pressure, which will boost your motivation and goal initiation. For setting this goal, it is very useful to know your comfort zone. The goal, or the little steps that you need to take, need to be outside of your comfort zone, so there's a possibility for you to grow. When you know this, you also have an idea if the goal is realistic. Don't set a goal that you want to climb the Mount Everest if you just started out hiking, if you know what I mean. The T stands for timely. The reverse engineered goal must also be time-bound. Here it is crucial that it has a start date and a deadline. Otherwise there's like no sense of urgency, no moment to evaluate this goal, and you will be less motivated to actually achieve this goal. Now that your goal is clear and formulated, you actually need to check yourself if you're doing a good job at completing the goal. If we want to be efficient, we need to be constantly updating the action steps that we created in order to have a higher probability of actually reaching the goal. How often should you assess progress? Personally, I do it on a weekly basis. On Sunday, I journal for about 30 minutes, reflect on my performance, and update the action steps that I need to take for the upcoming week. Here it is important that you stay critical of yourself. If you did not manage to reach your set deadline, it is no shame to adjust it to lower milestones. Making small steps with small milestones is better than making no steps because you set a goal that was too unrealistic for your comfort zone. Now that you've reverse engineered your goal to make the steps smart and you have a clear assessment strategy, it is time for goal execution. You probably think like, oh my god, this is so much work, I don't want to do all this. And you're kind of right, you have to put in some work in order for you to reach your goal. Luckily, I have a few super useful methods that are supported by research that, when executed correctly, will help you gain your motivation, keep your motivation, and will build your discipline during the goal execution process. These methods come from knowledgeable professionals in the field of neurology, psychology, and coaching. Names like Andrew Huberman, Jordan Peterson, and Brian Kane, to name a few. I will also put a link to their channels or their websites in the description. The first trick that I'm going to explain that has proven to work is visualizing failure. Like I said in the beginning, visualizing yourself actually reaching that goal is a great way to get started, but over time, this feeling fades and you lose motivation. Thinking of all the ways you could fail if you did not reach the goal will apparently make you 100% more likely to actually reach the goal. Fear is a better motivator, whether we like it or not. Hey, but why all this negative energy, Mikey? How can you apply both positive and negative visualization? You use visualization in the beginning of your goal pursuit by thinking how your life would actually look like if you reached that goal. But during the work on your goal, focus on avoiding the failures and be also very clear on how those failures would look like for you. Even though this method has been proven to work, I don't like to be surrounded by thoughts of failure on a day-to-day basis. There's a different method that I actually prefer. It's a bit more difficult, but it has changed my life, and I would love to share it with you all. This method is called applying a growth mindset. Growth mindset involves finding pleasure, finding the dopamine in the hard work itself. It sounds stupid, or maybe you have even heard of it, but let me tell you, if you know how to apply this, it will have a tremendous effect on your life. The most important factor that is responsible for you pursuing your goals, setting value, and goal assessment is dopamine. Here is something you should know about dopamine. An experiment done on dopamine activity in correlation to our perception of time showed that when dopamine levels were high, it slowed down our internal clock, leading us to underestimate time. This is where the saying, time flies when you're having fun, comes from, because dopamine is high when we're doing something we enjoy. Dopamine is also responsible for something that is called reward prediction error. This states that dopamine is released when you get an unexpected reward. For example, a task being easier than anticipated. This encourages you to seek out that same situation again in the future. However, because we now repeat the same behavior or seek out the same reward that made us feel so great in the first place, it loses its surprise factor, thus releasing less dopamine. Now, bear with me. We are now expecting a reward and dopamine release at the end of our hard work. And since this process is connected to our perception of time, we start to disassociate from our dopamine reward that would have normally been released during the hard work. Now, the work itself starts to feel less and less exciting. Your brain will get a boost of dopamine from that reward, and it will also lower your dopamine baseline. This means that you get less and less dopamine for the final rewards. This will make us less likely to start doing the hard work for your goal again in the future, because you probably will not have the same drive of dopamine to even start. Now, hear me out. Working hard on your goal with the idea in mind that it will reward you in the future will make the hard work much more difficult. When we plan to receive a reward for working on a goal, whether it is a cheat meal after a week of dieting or reaching an actual goal itself, our brain will associate less pleasure from the actual hard work itself that is needed for the reward. And you will unconsciously tell yourself that you did not actually do the hard work because you enjoyed it, but just for that dopamine spark that came from the reward at the end. What this does is that it results in you actually experiencing less pleasure and motivation when working on this goal as time progresses. What the concept of growth mindset entails is that you find the pleasure and the reward in the hard work and effort itself. It is a fact that everybody can apply this strategy, and it is proven that people with a growth mindset will see such a growth in performance.
Why are you running? Are you doing this for world peace?
Are you doing this for the homeless?
They just couldn't believe that somebody would do all that running for no particular reason.
Why are you doing this?
I just felt like running.
Okay, so how do you apply it? It requires you to tell yourself, this action that I'm currently doing is pleasurable. During the hours of studying, during the workout in the gym, tell yourself this is rewarding. You have to realize that you can evoke dopamine in your own mind when participating in the challenge that you're currently in. And here's the good thing. If you evoke dopamine during the hard work, it will trigger an incredible amount of energy in your mind and in your body. It will improve your focus and your motivation, and your desire to start that activity of hard work will become less and less hard to do the next time. You have to generate this system of enjoying the struggle in your own mind. Tell yourself, the struggle in the journey is the best part. But you have to train it. You have to train it and do it every time you're participating in this hard work. I just love this idea. If you only focus on the end goal, you just disregard the whole journey that you're in. And during the journey is where growth occurs. You heard this before, you need to love the journey. The journey is the destination. Besides this growth mindset, you can increase your focus even more. This trick is to visually focus on a one-word focus. Okay, so what is this? By looking at a narrow image in your surroundings and forcing yourself to hold that focus point for 30 to 60 seconds will increase your focus. This action of visual tension will put your body in goal pursuing mode. This can be any point outside of your surroundings, but let's try and combine it with a little motivation. You pick a word instead of just a random spot. Write this down on a piece of paper and place it on your monitor or your desk, somewhere that is out of reach of your hands, but preferably in your work zone. The word that you will pick can be your deepest why, one of your core values, or even, if you prefer that, what will happen if you don't reach your goal. You pick what works best for you, but just remember to focus on it, visually focus for 30 to 60 seconds before you participate in the hard work itself. All of these steps sound like a drag, but it will set you up for the best possible chance for success. You can apply this goal setting process and the useful methods on almost every goal. Hopefully this video gives you some great insights and you start applying some of the info yourself. If so, consider subscribing. I wish you good luck on your journey. I just know that you have all the power in the world to reach your goals and to grow as an individual. Much love.